At 15, Smiley Smile. But how can it be so low? It's got good vibrations and heroes and villains on it. Well, for me, that's part of the problem. These tracks sound like they belong on a completely different album, although they are great songs. So 1 minute, you've got these wall of sound, teenage symphonies to God, and the next minute you've got the band kind of absent-mindedly blowing into jugs and tapping on the bongos. And neither of those things are a problem. Both of those kinds of music are fine, but they don't sound like they belong on the same album. Perhaps this isn't really surprising, considering that Smiley Smile is essentially a salvage job. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be a negative Norman. I basically really like this album. Little Pad, She's Going Bald, Wonderful. These are all really nice songs. On a more general note, I really like the baked sound of this album. Smoke as much as you like, you'll never get as stoned as this album. Although it would be fun to try.
We're going to the pagoda.
At 14, 2020. This is also something of a patchwork as well. You've got 3 very random covers, including Lead Belly. You've got Bruce Johnson's very dreamy The Nearest Faraway Place. You've got raucous barroom rock from Dennis Wilson from All I Want to Do. And if you listen carefully, you can hear him having sex with a woman at the end of it. You've also got a couple of fantastic Smile outtakes as well. Cabernescence and Our Prayer. So you've got a little bit of everything, including one of my all-time favourite songs, Do It Again. Although, in my opinion, they kind of cut it off too short. Like Smiley Smile, it's a little bit all over the map, but I think because the production makes it more of a whole, it hangs together a lot better. At 13, Little Deuce Coupe. I gave Still Cruisin' a right slagging off for recycling old songs, and Little Deuce Coupe does a very similar thing. There are 4 old car songs from previous albums on this LP, but taken on its own terms, it really works well. Plus, I think the 8 new tracks are all uniformly excellent. The slow album version of Be True to Your School is one of my favourite Beach Boys songs, and Spirit of America, how was this not a single? How was this not a hit? It's got a lovely, slow, jazzy feel, and that beautiful wordless chorus. So, even though it is sort of a semi-compilation, I think as a standalone piece of work, it works.
Crocodiles? Who said that?
I said that.
Number 12, Surfin Safari, the debut album. It so often gets overlooked. And sure, it's a little bit unpolished, it's a little bit rough around the edges, but I really like the young, naive charm on display here. Plus, there's a host of great songs. Obviously, you've got Surfin Safari and their first single, Surfin', but there's also lots of other great tracks tucked away. You've got Heads You Win, Tails, was it Heads I Win, Tails You Lose? No, Heads You Win, Tails I Lose. You've also got Cuckoo Clock, which is this song about a couple trying to get it on, but then they can't because a cuckoo clock isn't, the lyrics aren't very good, but it's a nice song. 10 Little Indians is also good, plus I really like their cover of You're My Miss America. Good cover. Overall, underrated, strong debut. I really love it. Also at number 12, Surfer Girl. Beach Boys have made so many frickin' albums, I actually forgot this album. So I'm retro cramming it in at joint 12 with Surfin Safari. I think it's the first album that Brian Wilson produced completely by himself, and as a result, the production's really great. You've got the title track, which is, of course, up there with their very best. You've also got Catch a Wave, In My Room, lots of really, really good songs. Again, a very, well, I wouldn't even call this a surf rock album, I call this a surf balladry album. Lots and lots of slow ballads, a few kind of more up-tempo, faster songs, but on the whole it's more slower, more contemplative, more romantic. At number 11, M.I.U. I sometimes feel like I'm the only person on the planet who doesn't completely hate this album. The reason I love it is very simple. It's full of great pop songs. From She's Got Rhythm, a fantastic disco stomper, to Kona Coast, which is camper than Christmas, and Hey Little Tomboy. I don't know why everybody hates this song. It's unintentionally hilarious. That bit where Mike sings, I'm gonna teach you to kiss, comedy gold. Elsewhere, the album makes a perfect soundtrack to your life. You've got Won't You Come Out Tonight, which is great for getting ready on a Friday night. You've got Pitter Patter, which really captures that feeling of being warm and cozy inside while it's rainy and cold outside. Sweet Sunday Love, similar thing. Really gets that mood of it's Sunday, we're doing nothing, but we're having a great time. Then there's My Diane by Dennis Wilson, another of his I'm so rugged but damaged. I'm very, very handsome and I love you, take me back, but I'm also damaged and rugged and handsome. But it's a great song. For me, the only really duff note comes with Match Point of Our Love, which makes a bunch of stupid tennis as love metaphors. It's like, been playing some tennis, have we, boys? Then there's Winds of Change. A couple of years ago, on the 31st of December, New Year's Eve, as I was cycling through the countryside and the sun was setting, I listened to this song and I cried a little bit. So M.I.U. Underrated, underrated, underrated. We're running down the beach. At number 10, All Summer Long. And yes, we made it to the top 10. And yes, I'm doing that thing from Coldplay's Yellow video. This album's really great, actually. A bit of a lost classic. I think a lot of people throw this into the box marked, oh, we don't really need to bother with this because it's an early Beach Boys album, therefore there's probably one or two great songs and the rest of it is rubbish. Not true. Pretty much every song is great. The first 4 tracks alone, what a run. You've got I Get Around, the title track, Hushabye, which is beautiful and maybe their best cover, and Little Honda, a great rock and roll motorbike song. Elsewhere, you've got We'll Run Away, which is a very sweet, lovely teen ballad, and The Drive-In, great rock and roll song about the drive-in and the fun we can have there. I mean, some people level the charge that these kinds of songs are fluff, that they're insubstantial. And yes, I guess a song like The Drive-In is a bit fluffy, but you know what? It's a great rock and roll song. The lyrics ring true. It's good young people music. The only strike against this album that I really have is it's got one of those, what's it called, Our Favourite Recording Session, which is another god-awful, caught on tape, oh the boys are having fun, they're making jokes, it's an unguarded moment, we love this, but overall, this album's pretty much freaking perfect. At number 9, Wild Honey. Listening to this album, you realise just how versatile the Beach Boys were. I mean, this is basically a soul album. It's got a Stevie Wonder cover on it and everything. And most of it, in fact all of it, is absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's very short. This album's less than 25 minutes. You can listen to it on your commute into work and back again twice, and I guarantee that by the end of it, you'll feel better about yourself, the world, and pretty much everything. Like Smiley Smile, it also sounds pretty high, but this sounds a lot more focused than Smiley Smile, and overall a much, much better album. It's one of the Beach Boys' best. If you haven't heard it, I thoroughly recommend it. It's excellent. Where should we go, this way or down to the village?
Down to the village?
At number 8, Love You. One fact about the Beach Boys that's generally not appreciated is just how weird they were. They were a weird band, and nowhere is this more evident than Love You. If you were to play someone, if you were to do a blind listening, if there is such a thing, if you were to play somebody Pet Sounds and then play them Love You, they would be easily forgiven for not realizing it was the same band. Love You is all squelching synthesizers, retarded disco, and lyrics, whilst simultaneously being mundane, are genuinely strange. There's a song called Airplane, which is about having a chat with someone on an airplane. There's I Love to Pick You Up, which is an ode to the joys of parenthood. Then there's Ding Dang, which is about love, I suppose. And if all of this sounds a bit fans only, one of the wonderful things about Love You is just how accessible it is. Even as his mental health was deteriorating, Brian Wilson couldn't help but be genius. This album, yes, it's proper weird, but it's also proper pop. At number 7, Holland. Wow, what a brilliant album. So many fantastic songs on this album. First of all, you've got the California Saga, penned by Mike Love and Al Jardine, a 3-part love letter to the home state of California, which takes you from Big Sur to the Eagle's Nest all the way to the cool waters of the Pacific. Then you've got Dennis Wilson's Steamboat, which is a beautiful slow burner. Then Carl Wilson's epic The Trader. The album's also bookended by 2 excellent Brian Wilson songs. The opener, Sail On Sailor, sung by their new guitarist Blondie Chaplin, is a stone cold classic. Right at the end you've got Funky Pretty, which is both funky and pretty. These tracks were shoehorned in right at the end, so you'd think that they might clash with the overall sound of the album, but they don't. They complement it. At number 6, Today. It's just great song after great song after great song. The first half is taken up more with the rockier tracks like Do You Wanna Dance, Don't Hurt My Little Sister, and the album version of Help Me Rhonda, which is a lot longer and more freewheeling than the single version that came out later in the year. In the second half you've got more of the ballads, so you got She Knows Me So Well, which is gorgeous, and you've got Kiss Me Baby, which again is just, I mean, how was this not a single? How was this not chosen as a lead single? The mind boggles. It's just such a beautiful song. I get moist of eye every time I listen to that track. And it's also got on this album, it's got When I Grow Up to Be a Man, which if you're a man and you listen to this song, you get it. Oh, look at that. Look at that. At number 5, Summer Days and Summer Nights. I think this album gets ripped off in terms of recognition. I mean, it came out the same year, 1965, as Rubber Soul, and everyone's lost their shit for that album ever since. But this album gets routinely overlooked year after year, and it's not fair. I mean, for one thing, it's almost like a mini greatest hits package. You've got the single version of Help Me Rhonda, You're So Good to Me, Let Him Run Wild, and of course California Girls. Not to mention that there's also lots of other great tracks on here as well. You've got Amusement Parks USA, which is a good bad acid trip at the fairground. You've also got I'm Bugged at My Old Man, which is Brian Wilson at the piano doing this really weird little ditty, which is kind of goofy but also quite dark. And of course right at the end you've got Your Dreams Come True, which is this lovely a cappella track that just finishes off the album. Unsurprisingly, the Beach Boys were really good at a cappella tracks, and this one's no exception. It's just beautiful. Yeah, so Summer Days and Summer Nights, it deserves more respect. Check it out. Hi.
Hi.
Number 4, Sunflower, sunflower, sunflower. I love sunflower. Listening to this album is a bit like being in a beautiful park, eating an ice cream, and daydreaming. There's so many great songs on here. You got This Whole World, Dennis Wilson's Forever, Cool Cool Water. I'm going to give a special shout out though to Add Some Music to Your Day. My favourite, my #1 Beach Boys track. It's catchy, it's uplifting, it's soulful, and the lyrics speak to something universal. Even if you think the lyrics to this song are a bit cheesy or sentimental, just the tone, the emotional register of this song, the essence of this song is everything that the Beach Boys are about. And in fact, everything I've just said about that song could be applied to Sunflower as a whole. It's the most Beach Boys-y Beach Boys album.
Oh, what a cool hut. We're going to go in the hut.
No,
Of course we are.
not in the hut.
In the hut.
At #3, Friends. The funny thing about Friends is there are no real big hit singles on it. I mean, I know the title track was a single, but there's no real big standout songs. And if you listen to the tracks in isolation, it doesn't really work. But if you listen to the album as a whole, it weaves a very particular kind of mellow, chillaxed magic. I mean, if Sunflower is lying in a park eating ice cream, then Friends is lying in a hammock, falling asleep and having a bunch of weird dreams about birds and children and meditation and something about trying to find Brian Wilson's address. And then you wake up in the hammock and you realize that you weren't asleep and actually you're just listening to the album. I mean, at the moment I'm sort of grasping at metaphors because, well, that was a terrible metaphor. I mean, the hammock metaphor is a bad metaphor, but I'm grasping at metaphors because it's actually very hard for me to accurately describe how I feel about it, because the way I feel about this album is indefinable. There's some kind of intangible quality to this album that makes it very hard for me to explain it with words. I think it's much better if you just listen to this album for yourself. Friends is better than your friends.
Oh, nice.
At #2, Surf's Up. By 1971, nobody was more aware of how outdated the surf rock tag was than the Beach Boys themselves. Hence the ironically titled and artworked Surf's Up. It's a decidedly darker album than Sunflower, where the last track on that album had invited us to dive in and drink the cool, cool water. Surf's Up begins with a warning. Don't go near the water's turning bad. It only gets weirder from there. Carl's Long Promised Road is a bit of an anthem, but it's downbeat. Al Jardine sings about his feet, and Mike Love sings the blues on Student Demonstration Time, and their manager sings from the perspective of a tree. And then, of course, there's the title track. I've listened to this song I don't know how many times. I don't understand the lyrics, and to be completely sincere, I don't want to understand them. I just know that every time I hear that lyric, a broken man too tough to cry, and those harmonies come in with Cha is father of the man, I get goosebumps every time. I mean, I've got goosebumps now. Just me singing it badly gives me goosebumps. I mean, Surf's Up is the sound of a band completely on top of their game, writing some of the best pop music ever made, and it's a masterpiece. At #1, Pet Sounds. What do I have to say about Pet Sounds that hasn't already been said? Okay, let's go negative. Let's talk about the artwork. The artwork is rubbish. I mean, first of all, taking the band to a petting zoo, that's a crap idea. It's a way too literal reading of the title. And also, that goat on the front cover takes up half the space. There's more goat on the cover than Beach Boys. That's not right. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really like goats. I think they're a great animal. They make a great sound. They make a great pet sound. Of course, there's a whole satanic reference as well. Love Satan, of course. But no, okay, no, so don't let the goat put you off. Pet Sounds is considered a classic, a masterpiece, a milestone in pop for a reason, because it is all those things. In terms of saying something new, I think, wouldn't it be nice, never gets old, no matter how many times you hear it. That's Not Me, I think, really nails the feeling of homesickness. Sloop John B, perhaps tonally, doesn't quite belong on the album, but it's such a great song, it doesn't even matter. God Only Knows never gets old, no matter how many times you hear it. Here Today really, really nails that, the feeling of falling in love and the disillusionment that can quickly follow. How quick we are to fall in love, or how quickly we are to fall out of love. Perhaps, maybe that's not a new topic, but I think, as far as I've ever heard, that's the best song that's ever done that. I just wasn't made for these times. When I hear that song, I hear Animal Collective. What I'm saying is, I think that song sounds, you can hear that song's influence down the decades. And lastly, I think that Caroline No is actually just an alright song, but the train and the dogs barking elevates it.